The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 lepers approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When Jesus saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Then Jesus asked, "Were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then Jesus said to the Samaritan, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord.
As we listen to this gospel, our typical theme that we reflect upon is being grateful, and how Jesus had healed 10 of them, but only one of them came back to thank him, and that one was a Samaritan, which in the eyes of the Jewish people was not somebody that had any status at all, but yet he was the one that gave thanks, which is a reminder for each one of us and how we are called to be a thankful people. And as I was reflecting on that, I came across a story that was very familiar, so I'm sure you've heard it before, but it's always cute to listen to every once in a while again. Story of this woman named Sally, who was 30 years old and had been married for 7 years. She lived in Atlanta and was very active in her parish. And she and her husband, unfortunately, were having difficulty starting a family. She shared that with her pastor and been trying to work with the pastor about that. And so they've been praying and things about that. And then she came to the pastor and said, "Well, sorry to inform you, but my husband has been transferred, and so we're going to be moving to Chicago." And so the pastor said, "Okay, well, my prayers go with you." Actually, he said, "I'm going to be on a pilgrimage to Bethlehem, so I'm going to light a candle at the birthplace of Jesus for your special intention of being blessed with children." So 10 years later, this pastor happened to be in Chicago and looked up Sally and her husband and went to visit their home. When he arrived, he was very happy and astonished that she had been blessed with 5 children. "Congratulations, Sally. I am glad to learn that my candle at Bethlehem really worked." But he said, "Where's your husband?" She said, "Oh, he's gone to Bethlehem to thank Jesus and to blow out that candle." I don't know if that's the true spirit of gratitude, but she was grateful for the 5 children. But anyhow, it's interesting as we celebrate Thanksgiving this weekend. Coincidentally, we're having the readings that we do. The readings that we're following are of a different cycle than necessarily the societal celebrations in Canada, so it's just coincidence that we have this gospel today. But even if we look beyond the gospel, really our Mass is a vivid reminder of what we're supposed to do continually, regularly, and that is be thankful. We even look at the word Eucharist. It comes from a Greek word that means thanksgiving. So every time we gather to celebrate Eucharist, we are gathering in that spirit of thanksgiving. And if we look at our liturgy, many times that is highlighted, but more so we can find that in the preface, which is a little prayer that I say just before the Holy Holy. If we listen to those words, I'll say, "The Lord be with you, lift up your hearts." Then what do I say? Well, the priest says, "Let us give thanks to the Lord our God." And we all respond, "It is right and just." And after you say it is right and just, the priest says a little prayer. And it's interesting what's in that prayer. Often the words are very similar to this, especially in all the ones that are used for Sundays. He says, "It is truly right and just, our duty and our salvation, always and everywhere to give you thanks, Lord, Holy Father, Almighty and ever-living God." Now listen to those words. It is truly right and just. It's just, it's right, it's fitting, it's appropriate that we give thanks to God. How often? Always, and where? Everywhere. Our duty and our salvation, always and everywhere, to give you thanks. Now, I think we need to think about that for a moment. Every Mass, we are reminded as to how often and where we should be giving thanks. Now, if you're like me, it's like, okay, yeah, he just says those words, and we wait for the Holy Holy. No, and that's where we really need to pray and listen to the words that are used at Mass. They're not words just to fill time. Okay, yep, we got to be here for about an hour, so we better make sure we have an hour's worth of words. No, these words are purposeful. And we say these words at every Mass, reminding us that always and everywhere we are called to give thanks. It's interesting, too, as we hear in that Eucharistic prayer, what did Jesus do every time before the priest raises the host or raises the chalice? We'll hear those words. He took the bread and gave thanks. He took the chalice and gave thanks. So Jesus is modeling for us in this great gift of the Eucharist, that word that means thanksgiving, that he was thankful to the Father, even knowing what was going to be happening. But he was thankful to the Father for this gift that was being given for the disciples, his apostles of that day, and for us today, that we would be given this precious gift. So we can see, again, just even in the Eucharistic prayer part of our Mass, that spirit of thankfulness and how we are called to enter into that. And that's where I think we really need to look at our lives and see, are we thankful always and everywhere? Are we only thankful when the big things happen? Or do we actually not even be thankful sometimes for those things? We get more caught up in what God hasn't done for us than what God has done for us. Ultimately, everything we have comes from God. There isn't anything that you or I have that we created and did on our own. God either gave us the ability to do that or provided it for us. And that's why we need to be thankful and not get caught up in what isn't. Let us praise God for what is. And I would venture to say, let's broaden that so it's not just dealing with big things. Let's even look at the little things. If we're supposed to be thankful always and everywhere, then those little things are important too. My family that's always prayed grace before meals, no matter where we were. Whether it was at home, at McDonald's, at some other restaurant, wherever. We would always pray grace before meals. I was always taught that I needed to be thankful for what God had given to us. And in that spirit, too, to be thankful for all those that helped that food get to that table. And whether it was the farmer, whether it was the person stocking the shelves, whether it was the person that swept the floor so it was a clean grocery store. All those different people. The person that prepared the food, the person that served the food. That was part of the Thanksgiving as well. Look at those other little things perhaps along the way. Getting good at driving, Highway 2, whatever it is, and hoping the lights are green. So when it's a green light, thank you, Lord, for making it a green light. So I didn't plan well enough. And then there's a red light. So the next part of being thankful is also being thankful for those things that maybe we weren't expecting or don't really want. So as much as I'm thankful for the green lights, I need to also be thankful for the red lights. That one's a harder one to be thankful for, because usually I'm running behind. But I've learned I need to be thankful for the red lights, for God reminding me, Father Matt, next time you need to leave earlier. So I need to be thankful that that God is wanting to work with me and reminding me. That's a little simple thing. Sometimes it's harder to be thankful for when, other things happen in our lives. But we have to recognize that everything is from God, and God will be with us through everything. He will help us. And even if the evil one gets in there in ways that we don't want, and we go, oh God, but we still need to be thankful for those moments and how God will work in those moments. Those are harder things to be thankful for. I had someone that lost their job, and he came to me and was like, okay, they were very disappointed in that, and they didn't know what they were going to do. But they also said, okay, I'm going to leave this with God and thank God that for whatever reason this has happened. And I went, whoa, that's pretty amazing. But that's the kind of spirit that we have to have. Be thankful to God, trust in God. And that's part of our gratitude. If we really are thankful to God for whatever happens in our lives, then that's saying we are going to believe and trust in Him to help us along the way. Maybe that's what we need to be really fostering in our hearts. To have that attitude of gratitude, as they say. Because it's having that kind of an attitude that joy fills our heart. When we're grateful, then there's a different spirit that resides within us. It's when we're not grateful, we tend to slide into the unblessings that we have. And then that brings us down. So maybe as we're celebrating Thanksgiving this weekend, as we reflect on this gospel, we let us think of the many ways that we need to be thankful, always and everywhere, not just on this weekend, not just one day of the year, but every day of the year, throughout that day, because God truly has blessed us in different ways, and sometimes even in ways that we're not aware of or accepting, but we need to be open to that too. And I would suggest at this moment now, since this is one of our name tag weekends, that we're going to turn to the person beside us, around us, or whatever. We're going to say hi to that person, because now they have a name tag on. We definitely can know them, and thank them for being here today. Because if each of you wasn't here today, this would be an empty church. And what kind of celebration would that be? Not a very good one. So let us be grateful for every person that is here today. So take a moment, say hi to the person by name, and say thank you for being here.